Let's just do a couple of things here. Let's go back, and we're going to talk about your pre Brian Boitano days before you were the one we all know. And now, can we bring up that first image, the family photo, which I love so much?
Yeah. Well, that's nice. I love that.
So, your sisters Lynn and Jill, right?
Yeah. Lynn
and then
is
Mark,
the strawberry blonde. Jill in the middle. Mark with my dad in the middle, and my mom.
Lou and Don.
Yeah, circa 1980.
That looks about wouldn't you say 1980 there? Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I think so.
That's a dang good looking family.
That's a nice.
Talk us through them all real quick. Give us the thumbnail in each of them.
The what? Okay. Very interesting. It's a very diverse family. I'm the baby by 7 years. The next oldest is Lynn. I don't know, the strawberry blonde. And then Jill. Jill was always sort of a mother figure to me because she always wanted a lot of kids, and consequently she had 7 children of her own. She lives in Iowa. No, she's, everybody always asks if she's either Mormon or Catholic, and I'm like, she just wanted a lot of kids. And she was always a mother figure to me. She would take care of me when mom was busy with the other kids or whatever. Mark is 10 years older than me, and he was kind of out of the house when I started, when I was 7 years old, so it was kind of hard to connect with him. We all get together on family vacations now, so we're trying to stay connected because when my father, literally on my father's deathbed, he said, I just want you guys all to stay connected and be good to each other. And and my mom suffered from Alzheimer's for 6 years. It was a really long go. And my sister over her left shoulder pretty much took care of her nonstop. But it ended up that my dad actually went before my mom. He had a blood cancer. He was super healthy, super sharp, but he, just couldn't hold on. They went the same year. So, yeah.
They did in the same year?
2013.
Wow, I wasn't aware of that. I understand that when you used to travel as a family, or when your dad used to travel with you, you used an assumed name?
Yes.
Is this true? Green?
Green.
And was that indicative of anything?
I have never knew. Okay. He didn't like people butchering Boitano. They actually said our last name Boitano, and they laugh because they say that I changed our last name to Boitano because Boitano is what Dick Button used to always use on the air. So I thought people knew me more as Boitano than Boitano, and Boitano is the true Italian way to say our last name.
So how did it wind up in Stephen Sondheim's rhyming dictionary?
I wish you don't have the Facebook post, right? It was. I forgot the other things that was on that list, but Stephen Sondheim had a dictionary that he would use to write songs that he would rhyme with, and he had sent this to a singer who posted it on Facebook recently, and it was all typed everything ended in A-N-O. So if he was trying to, I'm trying to think of one of the other words on it, but Carpano or Medrano, Chinza or something like that. And then in the column in his handwriting, he wrote Brian Boitano. And so this guy literally posted it, and I thought it was really cool.
You get some very interesting being in the public eye and in pop culture, how things come up and go and bloom and fade. One that did bloomed and has not faded is Frank. And if Rebecca, if we could play the Frank 1 video, I'll let you describe who Frank is when we watch the Frank 1 video, because he's the LLC, I believe we decided last night.
Oh yeah.
Comes from the town of Corleone, and it's authentic Sicilian.
Oh my God, I haven't tasted it.
And I learned it for you. Brucia la luna in cielo e io brucio d'amori. Fuoco che si consuma come lume cori. L'anima ghiaccia, dolorata, non si dà pace, ma chi m'ha nottata. Lo tempo passa, ma non aggiorna non c'è mai soli, Sindo non torna, brucia la terra mia e brucia lume e cori, chi si d'acqua ida e io si ti d'amori, a quella canto la me canzoni, se non c'è nudo casa faccia allo barcone, brucia la luna in cielo e io
Why we're playing this? I'll let Brian say why we played that particular.
So look at, wasn't he so handsome? Or he still is handsome. He's my other half of going on 25 years. I mean, we 20 somewhere between 23 and 25. But yeah, so he was Al Pacino's son in The Godfather.
And he was also what for?
He got the title of the world's longest running Phantom in Phantom of the Opera after doing 2,600 performances. And he started the touring company. Michael Crawford was on Broadway, and then he started the touring company that started going around the nation in
So the both of you were clearly underachievers. Right, yeah. He's Phantom of the Opera. He's in Godfather 2. He's a World Figure Skating Championship who... you know, and this, it's great. We were talking about this. There have been a lot of athletes, particularly Olympic athletes, who get to the pinnacle and then they fade away. And we had this discussion last night. And but you've been able to maintain relevance. And I think, and we purposely played "What Would Brian Boitano Do" at the beginning. What year was that South Park did
I think
that?
it was 1998.
Okay. Would you credit that somewhat to a reinvigoration of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think so at the time because I was right at the height of like sort of doing, you know, touring and TV specials and professional competitions, which was all over network television at that time. But yeah, I think it certainly brought in, I think from that time on, like everybody's seen the South Park thing, and it was a lot younger crowd than came to the shows to watch me. I mean, it was like, you know, teens that weren't really following figure skating as much, but it would be, they were following, you know, South Park. So definitely in regards to name recognition and things like that, people always remember that song.
But you didn't know those guys. They just did this without your approval or knowledge, and all of a sudden your name shows up in South Park the movie, right? And even before
there was before that, I heard a story. So one of the executives in Hollywood commissioned them to do a Christmas video tape. So this is before they were the South Park guys that had the TV show and the movies and stuff like that. And it was supposed to be like a Christmas video. So I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a 5-minute thing called The Spirit of Christmas, where it's Jesus versus Santa Claus. They get in a fight, and I come in and break up the fight. And it's actually really hilarious. But it took me years to see it. And I just thought it was a passing thing.
Right.
And I had phone calls from my friends who were in different studios going like, there's this like really funny video going around about you, like, you know, breaking up a fight between Jesus and Santa Claus. And I'm like, I didn't bother to really see it. And then I finally did when they like, my friend from the studio called me and they're coming out with a movie and there's a song about you. And I'm like, oh God.
But see, this is what I love.
I'm like, what are they going to do?
You subsequently received permission to make T-shirts featuring the South Park Boitano character with the proceeds donating to charity.
Yep. I started selling T-shirts that say, "What would Brian Boitano do?" with kind of me making a crazy face, and I did it all for charity. But I actually wrote to them to get their permission for me to use, you know, "What would Brian Boitano do?" on the T-shirt, and they did. And then also, I don't know if you have that in your notes. I actually contacted Comedy Central, the same lawyers at Comedy Central, to get permission to do my Food Network show, "What Would Brian Boitano Make?" So I just wanted, I didn't want to screw around with these guys. It's they're not always nice.
But still, I mean, it came out of the blue. It was just a weird thing. Did you think it was a send up to begin with? Did you think it was they were making fun of? I mean, have you ever spoken with them? Like, what? It was just such a random thing.
Well, I was worried because at that time I wasn't out. Okay. So it was like, you know, that was, a big thing. I didn't ever want to share my like sort of personal space in my world with the public. I wanted people to focus on my, you know, on my work and what I was promoting.
Well, then let's go there then.
Okay.
So your coming out story, real quick. What were the circumstances?
Wow, it's very interesting. So I got a call from the White House during the Sochi Olympics. You know that Putin put in this anti-gay law that was like about gay propaganda, and that was like sort of kind of also happening when I got asked to be on, President Obama asked me to be on the delegation. So to be on a delegation, you have to be vetted. And so I remember I was skating a show in Courchevel, France, and I got the call from the White House, like the vetting thing. And they asked, questions like, have you ever not paid taxes? Or, the usual vetting stuff. Have you ever been arrested? Whatever. No. And the guy said to me, do you have any questions about being on the delegation? And I said, well, I do. Who else is on the delegation? And he said, I can't tell you that. And I said, well, tell me a little bit about the delegation. Well, I can't really tell you anything about the delegation. I'm like, this is kind of weird. And I thought, looking forward, if he would have told me who was on the delegation, I would have put the puzzle pieces together. But as it is, I didn't find out. And remember that I was not out at this time. I woke up the next morning to Twitter blowing up about President Obama appointing a gay delegation to represent his vision and his statement of tolerance and diversity against Putin to go to Sochi and represent them. So in the press release, it said, gay and lesbian, Billie Jean King, Caitlin Cahow, and also Olympic champion Brian Boitano. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. I mean, because I need to make a statement come out. So I called.
You were outed by Obama?
That's what I...
Damn.
Yeah. So anyway, I scrambled together. I did this, press release that basically said, I'm many things. I've never been ashamed of being a gay man. It's just that it's something that I held for, people who are close to me. Everybody knew, all my close friends, my family. I'm not ashamed. I'm an uncle, a son, a partner, and also a gay man. But anyway, so yes, that's the story in how I did come.
That was your quote that I had here. I am many things: a son, a brother, an uncle, a friend, an athlete, a cook, an author, and being gay is just one part of who I am. What I thought was sweet, though, was at the time, Mark, your brother, who was a Republican state senator, right? Mm-hmm. And actually kind of conservative, he came out in support of you.
Yes. Yeah. I actually, when I was in Courchevel before the show that I had to skate that night, and they're like, I talked to one of these publicists, what are the publicists called, for people who are under, crisis publicity, and not that it's crisis, but it was he's like, you got to come out in the next 4 hours. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm had to get on. I'm like, I gotta talk to my family first. So each phone call is my brother, hey guys, just so you know, in another couple hours, it's gonna be on the news. I'm gonna come out. And I had all these conversations with him, and my brother was really supportive, and it was pretty funny because the way that Jill and Lynn and Mark all reacted to it was very positive, but so different those phone calls were. And it was just it was just said volumes of who they were, but still always in support.
In retrospect, are you happy it happened that way?
People ask me that. People are like, are you relieved? Are you? I'm like, no. I'm just, it was always what it was. It was I just didn't, want to talk about it on a public, platform. Right. It was just, I was always free and open with everybody.
For what you were doing, maybe.
Yeah, I just, when you go on a show and you're trying to promote a TV special or any project that you're doing, you have a limited amount of time. And if you go on and what they want to talk about first is anything other than that project that you're doing, it's wasted time. I wanted to go out there on the Today Show and have, Matt Lauer or Katie Couric talk about, oh man, this TV show is really good. I didn't want it to be, sort of taken up with the space. And actually what Would Brian Boitano do did take up a lot of that space. Yep. So if you go out there and they play the music when you're coming on, they're like, talk about the movie and then talk about this. Oh, and now you have 10 seconds to talk about your TV special. I'm like, oh yeah, everybody watches on Tuesday at 8:00. It's the end.
3 years ago in that seat was Anderson Cooper, and I asked him the same question.
Yes.
Why because he came out comparatively late, and he had, you never know what anyone's circumstance is, and his circumstance was he was the international Middle East correspondent for CNN. Countries he traveled in had death penalties for homosexuality. They would have not only denied him entry, but he could never get the interviews he got if he were an out gay man coming from America to interview people from these very conservative places. So, it's one of those things where on the outside of people's lives can look very different than how it feels on the inside, and the reasons for doing that. We're going to jump. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. I wanted to say something because I saw Anderson I did Anderson Cooper's show when I came out for Sochi, and then I saw Anderson at Thrive 3 years ago when I was there. And I actually, when I did Anderson's show, he was like, if you have any questions, call me. So I did call him, and he spent like an hour with me on the phone the day after I did his show, like talking me through it, because I was, it was new to me, even though. And when I saw him at Thrive again, I came up to him and I'm like, I just want to thank you. You don't know what an impression you made on me, but like people of our age don't help each other as a rule. It's everybody deals with it themselves. And like a peer of our age, I think it was 50 years old or whatever, a peer of our age sitting down and saying like, do you need help? Most of the times you think, well, the guy's 50 years old. He's got to like be able to find his own way. But it's so nice to have that mentor or that person who's done it and gone through it. And our press releases, and I told Anderson, they were almost identical. It's a part of who you are. And he said almost the same thing. So when I saw him at Thrive, I was like, thank you so much for that. And I really appreciate it. And I think that he was touched.
It was a nice moment.
Yeah.
Have you been able to return the favor to any other young gay person who needed direction and guidance?
I've always, it's kind of like giving advice. I don't want to give advice without being asked for advice. So I've made it very clear that I'm open to everyone, to come approach me, ask me. I am there. I'm friendly. I'm, going to help anyone. So I think that everybody knows that I'm approachable.
I'm going to jump to 1988 now, and that was the Olympic gold medal year, right? And we were talking before about what he does in terms of figure skating is an athletic endeavor, but at the same time you were the face of figure skating. I mean, you were one of and they promoted the individuals in figure skating so heavily because the sport was so dependent upon that, and it causes some kind of usually or occasionally some awkward public appearances and public image things because you're trying to serve several masters at one time. I'm sure you're trying to please U.S. figure skating, you're trying to please sponsors, you're trying to stay in the public eye. Can we just show those two stills? Do you remember what that was for?
Yeah, that was a reject I had 4 posters, and this was a photo shoot for my 5th poster the 4th one that was the reject that I decided not to do. So when I would go on, remember posters, you guys? I mean, a lot of you probably don't, but it's like, right? So we would be on tour. I traveled in a show called Champions on Ice, and they would have like the merch places. They'd sell programs, and I had posters up there, and I would sell like 400 posters a night. There were like 15 to 20,000 people in the audience, and I would sell these. So it was a really good money making thing for me. But this was one of the ones I didn't go with because.
Where's the next one? This one.
That was so. I don't know where that. You showed this to me before. This is People magazine.
Yeah.
Before the Olympics. I don't know why I took my shirt off. I don't think
anyone's complaining.
Neil Preston was the photographer. Someone added that hat on. That wasn't for
That's
for
Photoshopped?
people. That was photoshopped.
Okay.
It was without a hat, but
So
what?
Before you came out?
Yes, this is before I came out. Yeah, I know, right? But I didn't have the hat on. That'll make a difference.
And the chef hat I love.
Yeah.
It's a sign of things to come. And there's one clip. This is off your own Facebook page, so you can't get angry for me showing it. But the clip from Winter Magic. Can we play the Winter Magic clip from the Facebook page? It looks like it was beamed in via satellite from a submarine in the North Sea.
The National Football League and Timberline Productions proudly presents the 1992 Super Bowl 26 Halftime Spectacular, Winter Magic.
Hi, everybody!
Come on and feel the cold.
Come to Minnesota where winter's the hottest time of the year.
It's Winter Magic.
Ladies and gentlemen, we proudly salute the 1992 Winter Olympics as we welcome Olympic gold medalists Dorothy Hamill, Brian Boitano,
I'm only one, but not alone. My finest day is yet unknown. I want
The Dorothy?
Yeah.
You're still landing those. This is hilarious.
Oh my God.
So,
Oh my God.
and he was such a good sport about that. He was also a good sport about talking about it. But it's just, I mean, I think it was part and parcel. The point is, when you're in that position and you're very young and you are, the face of a lot of different things all at one time, some crazy things happen. But I mean, how do you look at things like that? You look at it all adds up to who you are today, and it's all good, or do you look at things like that? I mean, that halftime show was, what would you say last night was voted one of the worst of all times?
Yeah, it was. It was voted one of the worst of all time. Yeah. It actually got it wasn't, I don't think it's voted the worst, but it gets honorable mentions all the time.
All right.
So it was the very last, you guys might remember this, they started to do the counter programming for a Super Bowl halftime show. They did the Fly Girls on In Living Color on Fox that year to pull people away from the Super Bowl halftime show. And consequently, after that year, they decided to make the Super Bowl halftime shows better. The next year with Michael Jackson. They just decided, let's get away from all this, stuff that isn't very good, and we'll just have a superstar like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So that's when they started it the year after this. So I guess,
Can we go back to the other one of him putting the skates on? Because I want to ask you about figure skating in general, and it must be very challenging for you because every 4 years when the Olympics comes on, at least in my house, everybody becomes a specialist on these events, right? And they all of a sudden understand the scoring. And my dad's so funny. He's like, that guy sucks. He couldn't do the triple Lindy. I'm like, Dad, the triple Lindy's the dive from Back to School. It's not a real thing. No, I meant the quadruple Hendrix. I'm like, no, Dad, that's what you're drinking right now. It's not anything. Do you get? And you said something last night that really stuck with me. That what you do is a judged sport, and it makes it separate. I think of it like diving, but it must make you hyper aware and hyper competitive because at the end of the day, who you're competing with is yourself. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, but being a judge sport, you have to do things that please the judges. I mean, like when you see a panel, when they announce the panel, like you're at the Olympics, you know who are your judges. So you know who favor you mostly, and then you know who favors the other skaters you're
Really, it's that person?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. It was like I could rely on the Japanese judge, the Finnish judge, the American judge. It's like, so I knew so if the panel was split 5-4 and it was heavy on 5 judges that usually voted for me, I was like, okay, this is good. If it doesn't, and that's what happened in Calgary when I won the Olympics, it was actually not my panel. It was more for my competitor, Brian Orser. It was like 5 for him. And that night I convinced one of them to jump over to vote for me.
It's that personal.
Oh God, yeah.
That's interesting to me. So the Brian thing. Explain that real quick for the. I had a video, but I can't pull it.
So my chief rival for many years was Brian Orser, and they called the final at Calgary the Battle of the Bryans, and he represented Canada, and he was second 4 years before to Scott Hamilton, who won the Olympic gold medal in 1984. So, and then through those years, I won the world title in 86, then I lost it to him in 87, and then 88 was the Olympics. So they were building this up to be a big battle. And so we were friendly rivals, but we knew that it was going to be head-to-head competition. And I knew it was his turn. It was his turn to win, and that's how figure skating goes. It's like you wait your turn, and then when your turn comes, it's a little bit different now because of the new judging system, and that's a whole nother can of worms. We were on the 6.0 judging system then, which was a lot easier to understand for the American public. But I knew that it was his turn to win. So I knew that I had to skate lights out or wait another 4 years for it to be my turn.
You said something in that video, and I'm just going to read you this line. This is someone asking you how you feel after you won the gold medal at the Olympics, which for most people would be something that would just be mind-blowing. And this is what you said how old were you then, Brian?
24.
24. You said, I think it was the best of times, which leads in your mind to thinking it was actually the worst of times, because there is no way I can recapture that moment. It sounds like the amount of pressure you must have been under to have that thought, instead of the thought like, holy smokes, I did it, the thought being, well, oof, yeah.
Yeah, it's a twofold. It's like, you know that you'll never accomplish anything quite on that level again. And so it's pretty cool, because you're like, wow, I did it. Because the moment that you finish and you just like have done it in front of everybody, the best performance of your life, you're like, this can't be happening because it's such a wonderful thing. It can't be happening. And when you get the icing on the cake of winning the gold medal, but you also know that you're like, you want to soak it all in, because you're like, nothing else will quite reach this pinnacle again. But the other thing that's really good, and I think I said that because, at 24, to have reached that goal that you set for yourself for so many years, you kind of think, well, I don't know what the rest of my life holds, but at least until 24, I can say that I've been successful at this point. You don't know what the future holds, but it's like, okay, I can screw up for the rest of my life, and at least I have that,
So you were the first American to land a triple axel, correct?
Uh-huh.
You, in 87, you introduced your signature jump, the Boitano triple Lutz, right?
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is that? Can you describe?
It's a jump now. It's very commonplace for you who have watched the Olympics. It's a jump with the arm over their head, which nobody used to do. Now they're doing it. The jump with one arm over the head is called a Tano triple. And then the one with two arms over your head is named after Adam Rippon. It's called a Rippon triple. So now the skaters all do it. It's a factor that adds to the difficult. That's why I actually added it, because it added to the difficulty of a jump, and you do it so that you can get more scores. So if two people do triple Lutzes, if one puts their arm over their head, if they're both equally landed, then obviously the one with their arm over their head is going to get more points.
And so when it's a points-driven thing, the object is to do the most complicated. This is what I love, and I find incredible about figure skating or skating in general, is that at the highest pinnacle, the people who are the best in the world at it still fall down in major competitions. Like the difference between a 2-year-old falling down and the best in the world falling down.
Yeah.
That's a clear and present danger. Of falling down. And I think two things. One is, I think because you guys make it look so easy, right? Watching on TV, it's like, that doesn't look like. When we consider how difficult and the number of hours it takes to achieve that level of perfection. Tell me what you said last night about baseball or other sports. I found that interesting.
Sometimes, people have heard of not on a regular basis, but other athletes would be like, yo, figure skating, that's not like a real sport. Or, some people have said that in the past. I said I would put myself up against any sport to so if, you had mentioned if I've ever batted with a real pitcher, throwing 107 mile an hour ball. And I just think that I could actually connect with the ball before any baseball player could ever learn the most pedestrian single jump. And I think that that's the same, with any sport. I would put figure skating at the highest level, maybe pole vaulting, that would be, so USA Today did a study of the hardest things in sports, period. And the first thing was doing a quad in figure skating. The second one was pole vaulting. So what I was saying is, if people who don't think it's a sport, I would put any professional athlete, a figure skater, with all the other sports and say that a figure skater could connect or do the most basic thing in their sport before these other athletes could do the most basic thing in figure skating.
The 10,000-hour rule, right?
Yeah.
After doing something.
Yeah.
Because in baseball, for example, you can miss the ball 75% of the time and still be considered a pretty decent hitter. If you're batting 70% of the time, that's a 300 average, right, Will? And that's a pretty decent average, right? When you look at sports in those zero-sum mentality, and still have this level of you still skate today? How frequently?
Twice a week, but I don't leave the ice. I mean, I just work out. It's too painful to jump and things like that. But I just teach.
You teach?
No.
Give lessons? You don't? Mm-hmm. No. You coach at all?
No.
No. Any interest?
No.
Okay.
No, I mentor, so I really like, and I've worked with national champions and stuff like that, so little secrets, little things that make a big difference in an elite athlete, I love doing that. So I definitely love mentoring, and I'm definitely open to that. But I'm not really good at teaching basics and that kind of thing. I really like tweaking elite athletes.
So speaking of elite athletes, we're going to touch on this real quick, and then we're going to go to what you're doing now. But I thought it was important for those in the room who didn't know the backstory and all the other things he's done and how he did them, and his family in that situation. There's so much there. But Becca, if we could bring up Nathan Chen one image. So there was a little controversy. Oh, that's a nice one. That's even Frank. Cuter.
That's what Frank looks like now, guys.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a minute. It's the newspaper piece, Beck. So there it is, right there. So do you want to explain real quick what this was about, or shall I read it?
You actually explain it.
Okay. So Nathan Chen is an extremely accomplished. Can you give us a thumbnail of his accomplishment?
Yeah. So he's a 3-time world champion. He won the Olympic gold medal this past in Beijing. An amazing kid. He's taken male figure skating to a whole nother level. He's the quad king. Every jump he does in the program is almost all a quad. So he's definitely raised the bar of figure skating to a whole nother level.
So he was on a podcast. Some friends of his were on a podcast that doesn't exist anymore. And they asked him this very specific question. And at the time, he was 24, 22?
No, he's only 22 now.
Oh.
So he was probably 21.
20 years old. Asked whether he's ever been advised to play hockey because it's more masculine than figure skating, Chen replied, yes, certainly, especially as a male athlete. As a straight male athlete in a fairly homosexual-dominated sport or LGBTQ-dominated sport. I think that there's a connotation and that there's that, well, we really don't want to watch guys skate around and we'd rather watch hockey and we'd rather watch females do that, which I think is pretty messed up in itself. That was his quote. The quote didn't sit well with a lot of people and for different reasons. So this is the first one. You know, he apologized for saying it was a homosexual-dominated sport. Hit the next one for me, if you would, the Chen slide. It went from that to the next slide, categorized the back and forth as a scandal. It's a scandal. And we were talking about this last night. You know Nathan. Yeah. And I think homophobic is the word, is what he was accused of being in that space. Can you talk to this at all?
Yeah. I mean, you guys know that the press can over-exaggerate things. I mean, Nathan is probably one of the least homophobic people I've ever known. He's a great kid. He's smart. He's humble. He's genuine. He trained with Adam Rippon, and he were really good friends, and they had the same coach. So, when you're 20 years old and people pose questions for you, and I feel like you and I talked about this, a lot of the times they're planted questions to try to trap you. Yep. And I feel like that was probably something that, he was trying to stick up with what I talked about change, how difficult different sports are. He was basically trying to stand up for how difficult figure skating is. That's what he was doing. He was going figure skating's difficult. And he tried to elaborate on it. And a lot of the times when you elaborate, you put words together and then you're right. Oh gosh, this is going to be not good. And I think that's what happened. And then it blew out of shape for him. But the good thing is it didn't affect his reputation or anything from the Olympics. People don't remember that. They remember his great skate. What a great champion he is. They remember all the positive things, and this kind of went in the wayside. And I was worried that it wasn't going to go in the wayside.
Because he addressed it quickly.
He addressed it quickly, and he's genuine.
Yep.
He did it on Instagram, on a story, and he's just a genuine kid. He's a really great kid.
And he's back at Yale now, right?
Yeah, he's going back to school for Yale, and he doesn't know if he's going to compete anymore. But if the world is his oyster. He's got a bright future.
He said he wants to live in the dorms at Yale so he can make friends.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think maybe because he spent so much time practicing that he...
Well, he has a good community of friends. Yeah. This is the thing, like figure skating, the face of figure skating has changed so much. Back in the day, we used to have all these opportunities after the Olympics. It was like we went on to do tours and shows and TV specials, and we were busy all year round. This happened for 20 years. Now, there's not much figure skating on television. There's very little touring. They just finished a 25-city tour, whereas we had 2 tours that did 90 cities a year, and so it was like in big coliseums like domes, they're having trouble finding an audience, and we don't really know why. But the sad thing is that the skaters that are in the Olympics nowadays don't have that opportunity that we had back in the day, and just the climate has changed, the world has changed, how people get their information and their entertainment is so different. And I think that that's partially responsible for, the decline of figure skating's popularity.
Do you think people lost interest? Did you think they assumed the crowds would always be there? How would you...
I think there's a lot of things that happened. We oversaturated the markets like we did because it was like just everywhere all the time. By the time the Nancy and Tanya thing hit, that was like our pinnacle. Like after that, it was like we took over. I told you we were the second highest viewership sport next to NFL. We were above baseball, above basketball. It was like we were on primetime networks all the time. So, in fact, CBS lost their contract with baseball when the baseball guys went on strike. So they replaced the primetime package with figure skating.
Really?
So that's how. They were just creating all these events. I think the judging system has hurt. The new judging system is really complicated. It's thorough, and I would have loved to have skated under this new judging system, but it's really complicated. And even, I'm sitting next to Christy Yamaguchi in nationals, and I'm like, I don't understand that score. And she's like, I don't either. So it's, whereas you would see 6.0s or 5.8s come up and you could boo and hiss the finish judge or whatever. Now it's like, 221.47, and people are like, what does that mean?
It's, yeah, but you still follow it clearly.
Oh God, yeah.
You just did the Olympics.
Yeah, I hosted a show for NBC Peacock called Olympic Ice, which was fun. It was a talk show about all the skaters, and we'd have Nathan come on and from Beijing, via satellite and stuff.
And his mom too. His family.
Yes.
Is there anyone in that field that you don't know?
Love?
I'm sorry?
Is there anyone in that field
in the field of skating that you don't know?
Oh, don't know.
Do you know Tanya? And are you conversant with her?
I was on the Olympic team with Tanya.
Yeah. But you were...
I haven't seen her since that Olympics. Right. She's, But
it's as tight as it seems from the outside.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. She kind of made herself unavailable. It is pretty tight because there's this group of you that travel everywhere together. So it's like... back in the day, I was on the road with like Nancy Kerrigan, Oksana Bayol, Michelle Kwan, Elvis Stoico, Katarina Witt, so. So
I'll ask you this, and then we'll change this out. But if I read somewhere, and I'm not putting these words in your mouth, but if I read somewhere that Brian Boitano said that figure skating is a gay-dominated sport, I probably wouldn't give that a second thought. Because from the outside, it seems like that's the case. And do you think maybe it's because he is not gay and he's saying that he's not gay? I found the concept of what he was saying on its face to be, well, that probably, and I actually did some numbers here, and it just for 15 out of total 15 athletes, 11 men. Were 15 total out athletes at the Winter Games. There were 11 men, and 8 of those were in figure skating. So of the 15 sports, I looked that up too, 8 are in one sport of the 15. So the numbers would suggest that there's a propensity. Did it feel like that on the inside? The other Brian turned out to be gay, right?
Yes, he did. It wasn't when I was. I can't say because I don't live in amateur figure skating now. When I was growing up, I was the only gay guy on the tours. I mean, like, it was with like the whole package of, Scott Hamilton and all those people.
Right.
It was all straight guys. I mean, it wasn't that way at all. So I don't know if it's different or if, and that's also the information that you're getting. That's also the people willing to come out. So the other sports and snowboarding, maybe they're not willing to come out or whatever. Sure. I always found it was kind of basically the same, like 10%, of the group of skaters that
representative of the larger population.
Representative of the larger population. Maybe it's tweaked a little bit more for figure skating because it is an artistic, representation of a sport. But yeah, I don't know. I would say maybe, it's maybe tweaked up a little bit, but not much.
We're going to change gears here just a bit, and I do want to show, can we show that really adorable video of him and Frank on the sofa with the dog, and I'll let you explain what's going on. Actually, you explain beautifully what's going on the video itself. Oh.
Okay, this one's for you. I'm Brian Boitano.
Brazil.
And that's our dog, Hunter, and he's a rescue, and we can't imagine what our life would have been like without him. So we really appreciate all the work that you do for the little red dog, and we hope that all of you make a contribution because I think it's really important the work that they do. So this one's for you.
Close your eyes and soon I will be there to brighten even your darkest night. You just call on me, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running.
Oh, look at him.
Spring, summer, or fall, all you gotta do is call, and I'll be there inside you.
He's asleep. So we'll sign off. Thank you.
That dog was dead asleep.
That's the first time I've seen that video.
That was cute.
That's cute.
I found it online. Can we go back to the? I found some stuff online. The one of the two of them wearing the same sweatshirt. Yeah, that one. Talk us through what this is about. This
so
is awesome.
Frank's friends with the Dominican friars on the Dominican friar brothers. They're working on the front lines in Poland, on the front lines Ukraine with the refugees. So Frank got off the phone about 2 months ago when all the refugees were coming in, and he's like, I talked to my friar brothers and they really need help. We need to do something. And so we arranged a concert at our house. Within 10 days, we arranged a concert that we did. I did appetizers and cocktails because now I'm in that business of hospitality. So the guests came in and had cocktails, appetizers, and then went upstairs to a concert in the living room. We raised $300,000 that night. Yeah, amazing. So, and the Dominican friars were there. 100% of all the proceeds go directly to the Dominican friars. And they actually were there in the living room, some of the Dominican friars, and they talked about it. We had the Consulate General of Ukraine that came, and the Consulate General of Italy. And so a family heard about it in Pennsylvania, and we did the same thing in Pennsylvania, raised $150,000 in Pennsylvania. And now a third family is heard about it and wants to do one in Carmel, California. So on July 10th, we're going to do another benefit. And the thing that we realized and learned from the friars is that their entire budget for the whole year of taking care of the refugees, and this is like medical supplies, housing, psychological care for the kids, like just everything, you name it. They're helping everyone do all this. The entire budget for the whole year is just $1 million. That's how far the dollar goes over there. Versus where it would go here. So we're going to try to single-handedly make enough to reach that $1 million goal. So hopefully after Carmel, we'll be around the $800,000 mark, and we'll keep going. If anybody wants to do Ukrainian benefits, then we're we're all in.
Right on. I think it's so impressive to do that with your time and your resources and your celebrity, and that you and Frank get to do that together. He gives a concert downstairs, and you're cooking for people upstairs.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great evening, if you ask me. So recently, how recently? And can we go to Brian's deck now of the images that we're going to flip through? So Boitano's Lounge, and this is why I love you. You have been able to maintain relevance doing so many different things. The whole Italy farmhouse thing that you did, right? Was it HGTV?
HGTV. Yeah. I renovated my great-great-grandfather's house for HGTV, show called The Brian Boitano Project.
And you still maintain that residence?
Oh, yeah. We bought another one, and we went back to HGTV, and we're talking about renovating that one. I don't know when that will come about, but hopefully soon.
And then what would Brian Boitano Make was before that, right?
Uh-huh.
The food, and then this. Yeah. And now this is like a logical progression. Tell us what we're looking at here, Brian.
So it's interesting. I was on Hell's Kitchen as a judge with Gordon Ramsay, and after that appearance, I got this phone call from this guy that I knew from my teenage years, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna start these boutique hotels, and our first boutique hotel is under construction right now. It's in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's called the Kindler Hotel." And I was like, He's like, "Hey, I just feel like I'm trying to attract, people like, I feel like it's the same audience that maybe watched you skate or, would go to your tours or things like that. And I know that now you have a food tangent and a hospitality tangent. Would you be interested in doing lounges?" And I was like, "Well, let me come see your product and see your vision of like quality and like sort of see exactly what you have to offer, and then I'll make my decision." Well, I looked at, his quality, met his designer. His name's Ross Vincent, who is just amazing. He's in LA. Their commitment to quality was just exceptional. So I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. So we have our second one being constructed in Kansas City. If you guys know Kansas City, it's right across the street from the Ambassador. It's the boutique hotel in Kansas City, Power and Light District on Grand. So we're going there. We'll have another Boitano's Lounge there. And then Baltimore, I keep saying we, it's not me, I didn't buy the buildings. He bought the building on East Baltimore Boulevard, and so we're going to have our third place there. So he wants to do 25 around the world, and honestly, it's really been a blast for me because I develop the cocktails, develop the food. I choose everything. Ross designs all the thing, but I choose the glassware, the check covers, the table, like the placemats, everything that goes into a bar behind the bar and service. And Ross won the best hotel lobby in the world last year. So there were 500 people in the category, and it came down to 3. And I think it was like Beijing and Moscow and Lincoln.
That's
and
amazing.
Ross is like, "Oh my God, we're never going to win." And they're like, "Lincoln, Nebraska."
How did you wind up in Lincoln? Was it just where the project was?
So the owner's wife is from Lincoln, Nebraska, and he'd been watching all the Cornhuskers alumni come in and not have a boutique hotel experience in Lincoln, Nebraska. And they were staying at hotels that they were wishing that he's like, they need a boutique hotel experience. There are people who come in for these games. They come in, they fly in every weekend that the games are here, and they want a boutique hotel experience. So he built it, and then they came. It's been great because he's very proud of it. His name's Nick Castana. That's our building going up in Kansas City. That's how it looks on current conditions. And then it's a historic property with the copper facade that you see on the right. I don't know if it's on your right or left. Right-hand side, the new way it's going to look is copper, and it'll be shiny like a penny. And then you see the little Boitano's Lounge sign.
What's the time frame on this?
We're starting construction in August, and he said 18 months. So it's pretty exciting. I love doing this. It's so creative. It is actually a lot like skating. The layers of creativity. There's the lounge. That's the entryway. That's going to be a waterfall screen. So that screen right there is like it's actually a waterfall. It's a constant moving waterfall, but you can change it. You could watch a football game on it if you want. But we're gonna have a piano on the stage, so we're gonna do jazz, and then in the back that's the bar with the archways on the left hand side with the lights there. So it's gonna be significant. It's gonna be like a 4,000 square foot lounge. So
That's pretty swank.
Yeah, it's really swank. Ross is like amazing. He's just so amazing.
So you kind of get to do things that interest you, right?
Yeah, I kind of try to choose things that I'm passionate about. People a lot of times suggest like, why don't you do this? And I'm like, I'm not really passionate about that. But the cocktail thing sort of came about by. It was just entertaining my friends, and everybody would come together and we'd make cocktails together and we'd cook together and we just had this whole thing. And I just, it's just such a great bond. It's a great way to bond with people and share experiences. I guess it's like being the Italian. That's like the Italian side of my heritage. It's like, the more you eat, the more you drink, the more fun you have. It's like that kind of thing. So I'm so pleased to have this opportunity. And like I said, the project it's top quality, top quality.
I mean, you seem appreciative of where you are in life right now. You have so much stuff you've already done thus far, and you're in midlife, and you're getting to do things and continue to expand yourself. What inspires you? Who inspires you? What are your inspirations?
I don't know. I don't know where I get my inspiration from. I think it's just passion. What I sort of find next. You know what I mean? It'll come through conversations. Like you and I have had conversations that I'm like, we talk about things. And I'm like, hey, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do that. You were telling me ideas for some TV shows, like So I like to. I learned in skating that it's not really the outcome that you have to depend on. You have to really enjoy the process. And that was a really big revelation for me when I was 20 years old, because I was like, at 20, I didn't know if things were going to end up like I had wanted them to. I didn't know if I was ever going to win an Olympic gold medal, because the pack of guys ahead of me was so strong that I'm like, maybe I've made it as far, because I was 5th in the Olympics in '84. I'm like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is all I'm going to go. I mean, it's significant, but I mean, maybe I'm not going to get that icing on the cake that I always wanted. And I just made I just said, like, I made a deal with myself. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the process, because that's what I like. I like going in every day. I like improving. I like pretending like I'm competing with myself every day. And I like challenging myself on a daily basis. So I'm going to enjoy that. And if I get the outcome that I want, then I get the outcome that I want. But if I don't get the outcome, I'll reevaluate and go to plan B. I'll figure out plan B when it comes time, but just enjoy what you're doing. And this is what I do with this now too.
So you are your judge, basically. You're saying, I'd like to do this, and I'll measure the results of this.
Yeah.
You live in San Francisco full time?
Yep. Well, we do Italy about 3, in that place that I told you about. Right. We do that about 3 months a year.
Oh, so every year you go back to Italy for spending?
Every year. And Frank has a music school. He graduated in Lucca in Tuscany from a music school. He's reopened that music school that he graduated from under his voice teacher's name, Lorenzo Malfatti. So he does that every year.
If we could get a mic over here for a second, I'd like to have some Q&A for just a few minutes, if we could, Becca. What would you tell the Brian Boitano that we looked at the beginning, the very young one, if you could tell him something today?
How old? Like the one from 1980?
Yeah, if you could tell yourself something.
God.
I know that's a kind of a cheap question.
No, I think we've talked about this. I would say to that 1980, it goes by really fast. You got to enjoy every single moment, and you got to do as much as you can of what you like to do. Amen. Like you and I were talking last night. You're like, just do it. Like I said something, and you're like, just do it. Just do it. Yeah. A lot of people don't have that. Have a lot more restrictions. But if you can figure out in your life how to just do it, that's pretty.
You're
pretty
able
fortunate.
To just do it. That should be a slogan for a company. I think.
Yeah. Nike.
Questions? Do we have a question for our dear friend Brian? Oh, come now.
Right there.
Rachel.
It's not really a question, but I have to tell you, my dad is one of your biggest fans.
Aww.
I ask my dad every day if he's gay. He's not. He's not according to my mom.
You asked your dad if you
But he's like obsessed with figure skating, and I was thinking of the whole topic of why it's kind of gone away from mainstream TV more.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with like the Dancing with the Stars and the music and the the singing competitions. I would imagine that might be a part of it, but I miss it because I'd much rather watch that than what's on the TV nowadays.
Yeah. We it was funny because we when we were touring around, our main audience was like women from 16 to 65 and even maybe older. They were the people that bought the tickets, and they would drag their significant other or husbands to the show. But by the end of the show, those were the guys that we won over. They would come backstage. They'd be more excited than their wives. They were like, oh my God, you guys go so fast and you fling yourself in the air. It was like, we would always gain those guys after they saw it live. So it's pretty funny that you said that about your dad.
I think that's the only part of the Olympics that he he records on the TV.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Has he ever seen it live? Because it's live. It's so exciting because it's fast.
When we were younger, so I don't mean to make you sound a little older than me, but I was 8 when he won the Olympic championship.
Bitch.
Our whole family was a big ice skating fan. So we went to the Disney on Ice, we went to the ice capades, we went to, I'm sure at some point.
Champions on Ice, Stars on Ice, yeah.
To do all that.
Yeah.
We were in DC, so it was a big area.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Big, yeah. We used to do the World Professional Championships in Landover too. And the United Center in Washington, D.C., the big, we used to skate there every year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we'd seen them all. I was a huge fan of Ricky Hamill. And I ran into Scott Hamilton at an airport once.
Did you knock him over?
I saw he had his ice skates on his shoulders. To this day, my mother tells me it was really just a bag, but in my mind, he was carrying his ice skates.
Yeah, did you think that they were hung by the laces over his shoulder and stuff like that? That's funny.
Who are you still tight with? Which of those people?
I mean, I'm probably tightest with Michelle Kwan and Christy Yamaguchi and Katerina Ovet.
Okay. And you converse with them on a regular basis? Yeah,
a regular basis.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for being here. I love your story. I love how it intersects with this convention in so many different ways, and with this group in so many different ways, from hospitality to equality to what it means to be LGBTQ+. Whether you like it or not, you're an icon status in this community, and I think it's the type of icon that people look up to. And you're just so chill. You're just so easy to handle and easy to be with. And it's been a pleasure chatting with you. And I hope we can do it again sometime soon. Please give it up for Mr. Brian Boitano. Thank you.